This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you why they suck. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I'm a little damp today.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and happy Pride Month.
Oh yeah, that too.
This is, I think, our first time recording in June.
Yeah, we've had a busy month so far.
Yeah.
For us, this is, the third week in June? Fourth? I mean, not fourth, second?
What day is it?
It's June 17th.
Yeah, something like that.
So, the third, technically
at
third week.
At least 3 weeks in, yeah.
We have not been recording. We've had enough stockpiled up that we've been able to not record and, require guests to come to fill space. Although now we are slowly dwindling our pile.
Yeah. So I have a fun little story about what happened this week.
Okay.
So this week, we just released, what was it?
You're Fear.com.
Yeah, I just released the episode with me and Ian called Fear.com, and you guys might notice it was a little late. And so the reason behind that is for the past 2 weeks, I've been asking Ashley to send it to me, and I've just been constantly getting hit with, when I'm at home, or
you ask
everything.
Me at the most inconvenient times in my life. And unfortunately, I have the memory of a goldfish. So if you are not asking me when it is actionable, it's not happening. So it got to the point where I was like, all right, I see this message. You need to send it again so it is a notification on my phone so I see it when I get home.
But then you would you bumped the message too, so I had to send it a couple of times.
I did that by accident because I was like, oh, what is bumping the message to? I thought it meant mark it as unread. It didn't, and I did realize how to do that now, so I don't need you to do that anymore. I'm editing this week, so it's fine.
Yeah, so long story short, I got Fear.com late Monday night when it was due Wednesday. So, yeah, it came out a bit late. I don't take any responsibility for that. I worked my ass off to churn it out by Thursday.
I believe you. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
So, to celebrate Pride, I had this joke planned for 3 or 4 weeks. I was going to say, to celebrate Pride, we're doing a Pete Davidson movie, who, to the best of my knowledge, is 100% straight.
I think so.
I thought that was going to be funny. The movie literally opens with 2 girls kissing, so just by sheer coincidence, it happens to be a very Pride-friendly episode.
Yeah. It's a movie that, is not necessarily... The plot does not revolve around the fact that the 2 main characters are in a lesbian relationship. Mm-hmm. It is just kind of a fact about the movie as it is any movie. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to kind of see movies adapting to that and actually when they say they're inclusive, they're not just be inclusive with stars around it, be
mm-hmm.
did you get it? It's just yeah.
Mm-hmm. When Mindy wore a single the tiniest rainbow pin I've ever seen, and at the end of the movie said and I'm gonna try to hook up with this girl.
Yeah.
And then they're we have a bi character. Isn't that super cool?
Exactly. I was like, Mindy, who are you talking about? And then I was like, oh, right, this irrelevant character from a movie I didn't like.
So, first of all, speaking of, Ashley and I received our Cinemark brand Scream 6 popcorn tins. They're pretty good.
Carter's is in the corner. I like it. I haven't opened my box yet.
It does have a sealable lid, which is a strange concept for popcorn.
I guess, what doesn't make sense about the sealable lid is the fact that, you can't even take it to the movie theater to get it filled. You have to. So you can buy popcorn and dump it into it, but you cannot give it to them to fill it.
That's stupid.
Which makes them, why have a lid at all?
Yeah. Because they're not going to encourage you to sneak food in.
Right. It's not like the Disney World popcorn buckets where, you carry it around with you if you can't bring it with you to the movie theater.
Yeah. Also, it's pretty high quality, is the weird thing.
It's much nicer than the cups.
Have you seen it yet?
I haven't taken mine out of the box. I got it and I was like, oh, I gotta find space for it. It looks so nice. Oh,
note the texture differences between what's supposed to be the cloth and the plastic of the mask.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I really was not expecting it. It's It's coarse, not even coarse. It's like
it's almost like, you know, like when you
hatched. Like
yes,
it's got that
it's
fabric hatched woven texture, and then the part that's the mask, which is supposed to be plastic, is perfectly smooth, almost glossy. I was not expecting it to be that high quality.
Yeah, and then the "Do you like scary movies" on the back is really nice too. It is impressive. So I also got the cups that Carter didn't want. And mainly just because I wanted them. And while I love them, they're not nearly as nice. And I think the design was used for something else. And they were like, you know what we can do? Just reuse this design and just slap Scream stickers on it. Because, like, the head is rectangular. I was going to bring it with me and I forgot. But the mask is like longer than the headpiece, and for some reason the headpiece juts out a little. So it's like it cuts off the mask. And I'm like, I don't get it, but I brought one to work and I have one at home and I love it. The popcorn bucket is going on a shelf and is going to be shined once a week.
Yeah. So
just kidding. It's getting filled with popcorn.
Yeah. And getting trashed as it should be. So while we're on the subject, I definitely have told you this in our personal lives. I can't remember if I said it on the podcast, but I believe I've mentioned Dead by Daylight, this video game in which...
You have mentioned it many times on the podcast.
Have I mentioned that they made a deal with Scream to add a killer, to add Ghostface?
I think you did, but they couldn't call it Ghostface, right?
Well, hang on. Okay. Famously, Scream used a free, like a mask they didn't have the rights to. It was public domain.
Yeah.
Just a generic ghost mask called Ghostface. They don't own the rights to Ghostface. When the remakes came out, they reneged on their deal with Dead by Daylight. But here's the thing. They don't own the rights to a guy in a black costume with a Ghostface mask on. So they just said, okay, yeah, we got rid of Scream. This is the Ghostface killer. Here's his lore. It's entirely different. And to be fair, it is entirely different. But they just... Nothing changed in the game at all, except I think they stopped using, like, Woodsboro. They started using, like, Middleborough or something like that.
Close enough. That's so funny. Yeah, you also told me something about Nick Cage, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're adding Nick Cage to the game. We're going to find out more, I believe, July 7th. I've been watching very closely. It's unclear if he's going to be a killer or a survivor. Either way, I'm going to drop money and get him. Because of course I am.
Of course. I also did promise Carter that I would play Dead by Daylight? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I got it right. With him.
You got every other word in that sentence wrong, but you nailed Dead by Daylight.
Okay, so I did promise Carter that I would play Dead by Daylight with him, so maybe we'll record it.
If you get it soon, you can punch in all of these codes and get pride flags as like little charms on your character.
Ooh, I like that. Mm-hmm. Very fun.
Yeah.
Bringing it back around to pride.
My one complaint is they don't have an ally flag. I can't be having people in the game be thinking that I'm gay. I just want them to know I'm an ally. They do have the like the Pride Progress flag or whatever, which is kind of just a catch-all.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been using.
Nice. That's pretty cool though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to play the game I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need to like practice before I play with Carter, but
yeah.
It'll be fun.
Okay. So just to give you a rundown of how this podcast works, we are going to give you a plot summary, some fun facts about the movie, break it down in the good, the bad, and the spooky parts of the movie, give you some overall thoughts, the memorial line highlight, and then give you a rating. So,
for this episode, I have a line highlight, and if yours is not the same as mine, I will be mad, because I think I have picked out the best line.
I believe that I had that line in mind and just decided it was too easy.
Are you kidding me?
We're gonna get to it. I think I have it in my good, actually.
Ugh.
In fact, I think I have it early. Anyway, so it's unfortunately my job to be reading the plot today. So let me scroll down to the old Wikipedia. So the movie follows B, who is this woman from a foreign nation that's never specified. She has a thick accent, and that's kind of it. And she is traveling with her girlfriend, Sophie, to a hurricane party at a mansion owned by her friend, David. So the other guests are... So there's David, David's girlfriend, Emma, who's an actress, their friend, Alice, who's a podcaster, this 40-year-old dude named Greg, and Jordan. There was another guest named Max, but he left the night before, and people kind of aren't talking about why. So they have their hurricane party. First of all, no one expected Sophie to show up. She didn't say it in the group chat. She just kind of appeared. And there was some pretty mixed responses to that. Some people were excited to see her. Other people were clearly disappointed. But in any case, they drink and do drugs and eventually decide to play the game called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I don't know if you guys have ever played Mafia, but it's a similar concept where one person is given a role of killer and everyone... everyone closed their eyes and they pick someone to kill.
Yeah.
However, the way this is played is they turn out the lights and you physically sneak around the house, avoiding people. And if the killer gets you, you have to fall dead. And people, when they stumble upon the body, have to say, bodies, bodies, bodies. And the lights turn on and they have to vote on who did it.
It's kind of really like Among Us, but in real life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Among Us came far after this style of game, though.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I realize that, but Among Us was like height of popularity when they were developing this movie.
That's fair, yeah. So, Greg, who's like 40, David's just bullying him, pretty much, even though Greg's seemingly kind of a nice guy. So Greg's like, oh, I'm feeling sleepy, time to go to bed. So he goes off, and they get into an argument in which...
Greg is the first to die.
Yes,
in the
Greg's
game.
eliminated and goes to bed. So they're voting on who did it, and David is antagonizing people. He starts pointing out their usual strategies. For example, Alice her strategy is she just says yes to everything. She just goes along with anything, and it always ends up working out. And Emma's strategy is she's an actress, so she just lies through her teeth the entire time. And so he's kind of antagonizing them. It's unclear if he's actually upsetting Emma or if she's acting for the game. But in any case, everyone ends up voting David out. He's pissed off about it and storms off. Shortly afterwards, the power goes out. And everyone wonders if maybe it was the storm or if David potentially cut the power to be a dick about it because he was pissed he got eliminated. But in any case, they continue playing, and while B is crawling around, David appears outside with a sword that had slashed his throat. The sword was introduced earlier. It wasn't important. It was like they used it to cut open champagne. So the group attempts to they try to call for help, but the cell lines are dead. They have a landline, but again, the power's out. They can't find the generator. And when they go in Sophie's car, the battery's dead because B accidentally left a light on. Also, there are no other cars there because Max carpooled everyone up there and left with the car.
If you're wondering who Max is, he's another friend.
Didn't I mention him?
You might have.
Yep. So Max is a friend who was there the night before and left, and everyone's kind of cagey about talking about him.
Yeah.
So they know Greg is a vet. First of all, Greg has been dating Alice for like 2 weeks at this point, and he's a vet. And so they're like, okay, well, it could have been him. So they start going through Greg's stuff and find a go bag with like a knife and a map of the area, which, by the way, is not suspicious in the slightest, but I can understand why they were a little scared.
I think I can also understand why they were scared. Their logic wasn't super off base. Like
they're like, why'd he circle on the map where he was going to be staying? Because he was fucking staying there. Of course.
Yeah, in case he got lost, he could try and redirect back.
Of anywhere to circle on that map, that's the only place that makes sense. It's also a hurricane. It's not even...
It's not... his logic was not wrong either. Like...
Yep. Be prepared.
Right.
Pack camping supplies because the power will go out.
He was the only one who was prepared.
Mm-hmm. So they end up going to confront him. And naturally, because he was eliminated and just went to bed, he thinks they're still playing the game. So he's kind of like, oh, I'm the killer. I'm going to get you. And everyone's freaking out. And he finally pieces together what's happening. And they have a bit of a standoff. Again, I don't even know that he was wrong here. They were clearly like...
They came at him with a knife.
Yeah, and are just like, why did you have a go bag? It's like, because I'm staying over someone else's house?
Right, there's a storm?
Yeah, so... Anyway, he kind of like takes charge of the situation, but then they start jumping on him. And again, he's not hurting people. He's just defending himself. And B just bludgeons him to death with a kettlebell. Just fucking kills him. And then afterwards, they discover that by vet, he was a veterinarian. Not even a veterinarian's assistant.
I can't.
So, did I mention Max?
Yes.
I feel like
we went over Max.
I feel like I mentioned Max. So, the group starts talking about Max, and... eventually, it's revealed that everyone's kind of on edge because the night before, everyone took mushrooms, and Max said that he's always loved Emma. And David at the time was like, peace and love, that's awesome. And then when he sobered up, was like, hey, wait a minute, that's not as awesome. And Max, in a combination of anger and embarrassment, left. So... they have a theory that Max is returned to kill people. Sophie's, who by the way is an addict, wasn't important, starts doing drugs. Anyway, Emma ends up falling down the stairs and dies. And by this point, everyone's suspecting each other. She might have been pushed. I don't know. That's not important. So they start asking about B and reveal that they Googled B, and she had lied about where she went to college, where she worked, and she ends up getting kicked out of the house into the hurricane. B ends up looking through the car to find, I don't know, a weapon, clothes for the rain, whatnot, and finds a pair of underwear that matches a bra that Jordan had in her room earlier. This movie kind of demands your full attention at all times, or you'll miss out on this shit.
I did not know it matched Jordan's bra, but I did put it together that it might have been Jordan's underwear because she also smelled it.
Yeah, that was also odd.
I mean, I think she was trying to smell to figure out whether or not they hooked up, but it still was just weird.
Yeah. So she... through the window, sees that Jordan has gotten her hands on David's father's gun. And so she crawls back into through the pet door. And then at this point, there's like a 30-minute lull where they just start arguing and talking about just family, like friendship drama. For 30 minutes, they're just like, oh yeah? Well, you never loved David. You were only in a relationship with him because you were too scared to break up. And it goes like that for 30 minutes with no action whatsoever.
Yeah.
Eventually, I mean, that's it. Like, they eventually, Jordan ends up pulling the gun and shoots Alice. Everyone struggles for the gun, and Alice ends up getting shot again. Jordan goes to chase after Sophie and B, and B ends up pushing Jordan over the banister, and she falls to her death. After that, Jordan, like while dying, says that she hooked up with Sophie on their way to pick up B, and she's like, "Don't believe me? Check her texts." And so they just like Bee and Sophie just kind of hide for the next until the storm passes. They come out in the morning and Sophie is like, Bee, baby, I relapsed, as though she wasn't just like pounding shots as soon as the first person died.
Like as if she didn't see her relapsing. Like that was...
Of all the times to relapse, that was an okay one, I think. What? Being trapped in a house in a hurricane where you think one of your friends is a killer?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, okay.
All right. Anyway, B still takes the gun from Sophie and points it at her and demands to see the text. They end up wrestling, and B accidentally gets her hands on David's phone, which had been left out overnight. They use his corpse face to unlock his phone, and they discover that he actually died while filming a TikTok of him trying to open the champagne bottle with the sword. And he was trying to do it towards him, and he cut his throat. And so everything that happened was either coincidences or people reacting to it. There was no killer. And as they're realizing this, the fountain in the pool turns on and they get reception again as the house regains power. So it was just power lost by the storm. And as this happens, Max returns and is like, what the hell happened here?
And B goes, I have service.
Yeah, and then that's the end.
That's it. God, yeah, okay. Let's talk about the facts. So this movie came out in 2022. And it was directed by Helena Regin, who's a Dutch actress turned director. And the only other movie that I could pull out is Instinct from 2019, which is a Dutch drama that they've directed. So this movie stars Amandla Sternberg, and she's known for her role in The Hunger Games, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse,
Who was she in The
and
Hunger
The
Games?
Hate U Give. Baby Roo.
Oh, Jesus Christ. God, really? That was... God,
Yeah.
People grow up so fast.
I
Huh?
know. She wasn't actually a baby. She was just a young child. Even
And she was
still,
probably
though.
not even that young when it was filmed, but still.
Yeah. And then Maria, oh gosh, Bakalova. She's a, what is it? Not Belgian. God.
Dutch, Danish,
No, starts with a B. That's why.
British,
Nope.
Belgian.
No.
British, but like the type of Brittany, that section of France.
No. Bulgarian.
Bangladeshian.
Bulgarian.
I was going to get there. Right after I finished Bosnian and...
You would have got there. It would have taken way too long. All right. So she's a Bulgarian actress known for Borat, the second one.
Oh, shit. Was she his daughter? You're talking about B, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Tutar Sagdiev.
Was that his daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, she was his daughter. Okay. So, and then, so she's known for that movie, and then she's also doing a voiceover for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then Pete Davidson plays David, and he's known for his roles on SNL and King of Staten Island and a bunch of other
He basically plays himself in King of Staten Island, is the funny part.
movies. He practically played himself in this movie.
That's true. Literally uses part of his name as his character's name.
Yeah. All right, so I got some fun
Do you think
facts.
that his character is supposed to be his father? Because if he's Pete Davidson, son of David, just asking questions.
This will be the last episode of Horror Sucks.
Just asking
So
questions.
sorry, everyone, to waste your time. All right. So as the film takes place almost exclusively in a dark mansion, the only source of light being cell phones, a headlamp, and glow tubes, the cast had to be instructed on how to light the scene and themselves from the cinematographer. And if any of the cast missed the timing, the scene was unusable, and all you would have saw were dark silhouettes. So it took a lot of work to get the lighting just right from the actors. The main actress, Amanda Sternberg, messaged New York Times film critic Lena Wilson after Wilson called the film a 95-minute advertisement for cleavage in her review, and she said, your review was great. Maybe if you'd gotten your eyes off of my tits, you could have watched the movie. The name of the movie and the game played in the movie are based on a commonly played improv game called Body Body, or Murder in the Dark, where players run around a dark room while the murderer kills players by tapping them, hoping to get away with killing the entire group. So the girls can't start the car because the battery is dead, yet they then honk the horn repeatedly. The horn is electric and cannot be used with a dead battery. But
I wondered about that. Yeah.
But the starter is heard attempting to start. Battery has minimal power for the horn and not enough to start the car. A low battery can affect the horn, but still not turn on the motor. But the way they say it is the battery is dead, and yet they're able to honk the car. And that's all my facts.
All right. So let's get into the good. The good. Dun, dun, dun.
I really thought there were some good shots in the film. Mm-hmm. I particularly really liked the underwater shots, especially in the beginning, where they were you saw everyone underwater holding their breaths and then looking up as Sophie walked in. I really liked that.
That was a cool shot.
Yeah. And then at the end when they're in the water and it's now super dirty from the storm and you just kind of see them in there. Yeah. Another shot I really liked. During the storm, Bee runs to the car, and you can kind of see the rain and just kind of whipping around itself between the trees as a lightning crashes. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. The storm was really felt powerful and like a force pushing people inside.
Yeah, it was impressive movie making on the storm's part.
Mm-hmm. I thought the movie was quite funny. There are a lot of movies, horror movies, that are funny and not very spooky. Like, for example, It Part 2, where they just sell out for the humor. This was the right balance. It doesn't immediately ruin the tension it builds. And it also had really great timing. Like, there's one scene where they're doing lines of coke, and she hands a lollipop to David, and she goes, "Here, hold this." And she bends down to do the line of coke, and you can audibly hear him crunch on the lollipop as he eats it. There's a scene in which they're talking about Greg, and he's like, "Who even invited him?" And she's like, "I don't know, he's kind of hot." And he's like, "Not hotter than me, right?" And she's silent. and he goes, "I feel like I look like I fuck." Like, that's the vibe I put out there. And she's just silent. Greg comes out at one point with the sword to pop open the champagne. And he's like, "That's my dad's Gurkha sword." It's like, "Yeah, I know. I found it on the wall." He's like, "Can you not just take things off the wall?" And then they're accusing Bee of lying about her identity and stuff, which I don't think we mentioned why, but it was her. She dropped out of college. She was telling the truth about what college she went to, but she dropped out to help her mother, and then worked at the job she said she did, but then the store got closed down, and she just kind of had too much anxiety to really talk about it with her girlfriend. There was an explanation for it. And, we saw things from her point of view, so we know she didn't kill them.
Yeah.
So they're like, "You literally have no idea who this girl is." And there's quiet for a moment, and Alice goes, "Literally no idea." And then I think
she'd been dating her longer than she was dating Greg.
Yeah. She knew Greg for 2 weeks, and I'm glad you mentioned Greg, because this was the funniest part. They're demanding that she tell them everything she knows about Greg. And they're like, "What's his middle name?" She goes, "I don't know. No one asked the middle name." She goes,
"But I know he's a Libra moon."
"He's a Libra moon. That says a lot."
That's what it is. Oh, man.
So it just was funny, and funny enough that it didn't take itself too seriously, but serious enough that it didn't make you feel like you were watching a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. I thought the movie was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you wrote down all the jokes because I don't have the capabilities to do that.
So before we get too into it, I do want to talk about something interesting that this movie did. Okay. There's probably a real word for it, but I'm going with social horror. In the beginning, everyone was acting so weird. Yeah. They did a great job of capturing how uncomfortable everyone felt after Max left. Mm-hmm. And so they open the game by slapping each other, and David full on just punches Greg, and it's shocking. It felt like a shocking moment because he's just destroying these social norms. And there's another scene, I think it was Greg 2, where B walks by and he's just sitting on a couch doing nothing in the dark, just staring straight ahead. It was before the lights go out. And when David gets eliminated from the game, he just smashes his glass against a wall and storms off. Those moments of just sudden violence are so terrifying because they're just violations of what we think social norms should be. It was kind of freaky. Yeah. Yeah, I did like that. Yeah. The face punch really threw me. Mm-hmm. Especially, too, because he was complaining that Max punched him out of nowhere. And he was like, you know what? Yeah. Take it, Greg. I just... I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing I really liked. I liked the lighting. I thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. I thought they did a good job of illuminating the characters. There's also, I didn't include this in my facts, but there is a fact that each character has a different light, and that's a representation of what they want. Yeah, that's right. B always has the phone. Alice has her glow sticks. Yeah. So the glow sticks on Alice represents her desire to be loved and want attention, while Jordan has a headlamp which shows how confrontational she is. And then B's phone is because she cares about her mom and stuff. Mm-hmm. And by the end, she was literally looking for the phone. That was her character. Yeah. What did Sophie have? Sophie's wasn't listed, I don't think. She didn't have a light. Greg's would be the light mask. Yeah. I wondered what role that played. So actually, I'm glad you pointed that out. I think it was just a dumb thing. They didn't make a full-on joke about it or anything. Yeah. So I wondered why they included the light mask, but that makes sense. The movie does a really good job of making you feel like an outsider in the friend group. Yes. When they're teaching the game, how Max, something happened and no one will talk about it, and everyone's just obviously acting strange. It really does make you feel like an outsider. Yeah, I liked that. Here's the thing. I did think this movie was kind of stupid. Yeah. But in a good way. Mm-hmm. It was good stupid. Especially their outfits. Insanity. I just was looking what are they wearing? I don't know. I couldn't grasp my head around a lot of these outfits they were wearing. But I thought the movie was fun, stupid. Mm-hmm. I thought it had a great start. And I'll get into what I didn't like about the ending. Also, sorry to move past it, but the lighting fucking sucked. I'm not going to let you get away with that. I couldn't see shit. Sounds like a you problem, what they did with the lighting was not good enough. It was an admirable attempt, but it was too dark to see anything. I saw everything I needed to see. I don't know what to tell you. Apparently my laptop is good at one thing and one thing only. So I think you're simply wrong. Listen, I have glasses, so it's everything's in HD. Yeah, that's gotta be it. I'm kidding. I don't know. I didn't have an issue with it. The one thing I will say, I did enjoy her phone lighting because that would illuminate her face and what she was looking at. The phone lighting was the best one. Yeah, but then they would try to light the scene with just the fucking glow sticks, and the glow sticks were bad. Yeah. Yes. And there just wasn't enough contrast in what they were doing to see it. I wish they took the approach that Prey did, where they put LED strips
on like the back of the fires that they were holding to create more light. And I wish they kind of added that effect to the lights that they had. So it wasn't just the headlamp, but it was actually a little bit brighter so you could see more. But I don't know. I still didn't have an issue with it.
Every horror movie always has like a fake out in the beginning, and you always see it coming, and it's always sad.
Yeah.
The one thing I can think of, I mean, granted, I didn't exactly go through the list to think of these, but the one that comes to mind that kind of breaks this pattern was Nope, where with the kids dressed as aliens, that was a fake out that
it paid off.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah.
But most of the time you're like, well, obviously this guy's looking at his phone right next to a window. Like, he's going to look up and someone's going to be there. They did a good job of limiting it just to what was absolutely necessary, which was when Greg pretended to be dead and they like tapped his balls and he woke up. That's not a joke, by the way.
Speaking of scary, I gotta tell you something that happened while I was watching this movie. So I woke up this morning pretty early and was like, all right, I got a ton of things to do. I gotta watch this movie. So I put it on. Like, I started watching at like 8 a.m.
Wait, you did? Today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it this morning. I don't know what you want from me.
I don't know. I'd like just 24 hours for you to digest the movie before turning it around. Let's get into this later.
So anyways, so I'm watching it this morning and I'm like, it was right after Pete Davidson like tapped the window and was dead. And all of a sudden from like, I'm in my bedroom, I hear from outside my Ashley! I scared the crap. And my mom was coming up the stairs being obnoxious. Ashley! And it scared me so badly.
That sounds like Karen.
I got mad at her and she was like, how am I supposed to know you're watching a horror movie? And I was like, maybe you just leave me alone and don't constantly say my name. She did it to me last night too when I got home. But it was I scared the crap out of me. I really just... Anyways, though, Greg's fake out was bad.
Well, yeah, but it was kind of necessary. It was the only one, and it's just a staple of the genre.
Yeah.
And they didn't dwell on it.
No,
it just happened and moved on. So I would say
true.
that was handled as well as it could have been.
I think we're giving a lot to this movie that...
I don't think so at all, because I think it had a fantastic start, and we're saying everything we liked, which is exclusively in the start of the movie.
True. Yeah, it had a good start. Had a very strong start. I will say I really loved that Bee brought zucchini bread. Yeah. Mainly because I really associated myself as someone who would bring like either zucchini bread or something with me as like a host gift. Be like, here, thanks for having me. As like Pete Davidson's like,
sick
thanks?
Zucchini bread.
Like, yeah. I enjoyed that.
Are you ready to move on to the bad?
Yes. The bad. Go ahead.
The fucking absurd lull in which the survivors just talk about their friend group history.
I'm glad that's the first thing on your list, because that's the first thing on my list.
It was literally the turning point in which I stopped enjoying the movie.
Yeah. It was so bad. They're just like, it's one thing to have like a small cat fight. It was a long cat fight. There was no tension in it. It just was like, yeah, and you're stupid. You're stupider.
To person talking about it.
There was some funny lines in it, but not many.
Not enough to justify the entire digression.
Yeah. It was horrible.
And on top of that, they captured a lot of the emotion. Like, they treated Alice kind of like a ditz, and then had to say, no one seriously listens to your podcast. No one here takes you seriously. And I'm like, why did you have to say that? I mean, I certainly got the impression that Alice and her podcast were not like well respected in this friend group. I certainly got the impression that Sophie and her addiction was kind of the black sheep, that they assumed that when she got out of rehab, she was never coming back to this friend group.
Yeah.
And then they said it out loud. I was like, what? Why?
But then they were also mad at her for not talking to them. And she was like, well, you're triggering to me. Like, you're doing drugs in front of me. Mm-hmm. Like, and in their defense, she didn't tell them she was coming.
Yeah.
Number one. But also, Like, you can't be mad at her for being like, yeah, I don't want to be around you because you party too hard.
And then on top of that, they, like, seemed upset that she was back. So that was just a wild...
It just was not entertaining to see them bark back and forth at each other.
Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, at one point, Sophie makes it, like, a race thing. That she's like, so I'm black and people think I'm an addict, but not my white friends. I'm like, first of all, your white friends are absolutely addicts. They're just high functioning. Like, they were telling you had to go to the hospital 3 times. You are an addict who cannot continue or you will die. They are just regular addicts. I'm like, second of all, no one's calling you an addict. You're calling you an addict. You said you got sober because you needed help.
Yeah. It just, all of it was not... Not good. Mm-hmm. So another thing I didn't like, after the initial beginning of the movie, a lot of the drama and a lot of the tension just came from the girls fighting with each other. Mm-hmm. And it just became very, like, it just was not entertaining. Like, that doesn't pull me in. I'm like, and I love drama.
Scorpio.
But, like, I don't find it makes good TV or good movie for, an hour really of just constant.
It was bickering. Like,
yeah,
it's really not even the drama because the drama was decent. It was just dredging up friend secrets that we really had no connection to. Even
after the cat fight, though, all of the whatever happened after that was still just based off, like, he said, she said stuff, and was just like, I mean, once Alice died, it was like, oh, check her text, and it was like, I just was uninterested. I was having to really force myself to watch it at those points. Mm-hmm. Not good.
I'm not 100% sure, but I've only ever heard he said, she said specifically in regards to, like, sexual assault accusations. I think
it's a phrase before that happened because there's an Ashley Tisdale song called He Said, She Said that came out in 2011.
Okay. Well, then I guess I just 2011. Wait a minute.
No, that's earlier than that.
Okay, I was going to say that's super recent.
I mean, Ashley Tisdale was from High School Music. That's not that long ago.
Anyway, sure. I'll just drop it then. I don't know for sure. I might be off base on this one. There was kind of just a lot of screaming towards the end.
Oh, 2007.
Oh yeah.
A little better.
They're just like screaming as they wrestle for the gun, screaming as they run around. It was just kind of meant nothing.
Yeah, there was a lot of them just like running around the house a lot, and it just wasn't interesting. At one point, B gets like kind of kicked out of the house. And she goes to the car, and then she, like, desperately tries to get back into the house. At that point, I would just hunker down in the car and wait it out.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that the killer... They were still entertaining the idea that the killer was someone else outside of the house.
I guess.
And when that happens, I would prefer to be inside.
I guess so. But at that point, I was like... was thinking that the killer was inside. Mm-hmm.
So one of my biggest issues with this movie is that the movie didn't foreshadow no killers in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they could have done that without it being obvious, but at the very least, they could have done something where they found out there was no killer in the game they played or something. Either way, it turned the whole thing into like a Mr. Magoo style whoopsie daisy style type thing. I don't know what they could have done differently, but
I don't know.
This was bad.
My other issue, they were like, oh, it all has to do with the game.
Yeah,
the game's irrelevant at this point.
Also, she was wrong right from the beginning.
Yeah.
She was like, first David, then Greg. And I'm like,
that's not how it
Greg,
works.
And then David was voted out.
Yeah. I don't know. And she kept saying, Greg, David, Emma. Greg, David, Emma.
Yeah.
What does it mean? It means nothing.
Yeah. So B has a thick accent, and then we'll say just kind of odd things, and that means that it's incredibly hard to understand her without subtitles.
Yeah, I had to put on subtitles halfway through.
Is she like, some butter bread? I'm like, what? Like, I'd rather zucchini bread.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then my last bad was just the car battery was pretty. As soon as I saw her leave the light on, I knew what was gonna happen.
It was like that was particularly bad because like you saw it and like you got it right away, but then it just kind of lingers there and zooms in just a little bit in case you were like, "Hey, pay attention," and it was like, "Come on."
Yeah,
I didn't like the ending at all. The whole phone thing. Number one, David's phone was not surviving that storm. Not after being covered in mud. The amount of rain.
I had an old phone that would have.
It wasn't an old phone. It wasn't an old phone.
No,
it was a newer.
Old, like a couple, like 2015 era old phone.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, it wouldn't have worked.
Okay.
It wouldn't have worked.
You've got the iPhone. I'll trust you. I like to buy quality phones, so I guess I wouldn't know.
No, I left you can live stream our physical fight in Carter's
remember when I left my
this?
phone outside overnight and it was totally fine?
Yeah, but you didn't leave it out in the middle of a monsoon.
No, but could your iPhone do that?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
My iPhone would be fine if it was left outside.
I remember where it is. Leave it in the same place.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not stupid. And with my bad luck, someone would accidentally run it over.
With your bad luck, it'd be you.
I said someone for a reason, Carter.
All right. So are we ready to talk about the spooky?
Yeah.
The spooky!
I'll go first because I don't think I have a very good one to talk about. I thought Pete Davidson's death was kind of spooky. The way he just kind of like knocks on the door with his whole body, or the window with his whole body. Yeah.
Okay. I liked the house in the dark when she was kind of crawling around. That was a little spooky because there was just no noise and she would see someone and they'd like scurry away or run towards her and then past her. And it was just very on edge. You didn't know what was going to happen.
All right. I agree
it did a good job of capturing the feeling of bodies or whatever.
Yeah. I also want to change my answer. When she has to crawl through the dog door and it's like a cement hallway that she has to crawl through to get back into the house, that was pretty spooky. And that's it.
Okay. And then my last is just the social horror I mentioned. When he punched Greg and broke his glass, I flinched.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
So, some overall thoughts. First of all, it reminds me a lot of the Pocono house. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have a friend with a summer house in the Poconos, a mountain range in Pennsylvania. And every so often, we'll just go down there and drink, and it's a blast. We've never had a hurricane party. There was a snowstorm one year, a squall, if you will, and that was a lot of fun. But it did remind me a lot of that, and I think maybe not everyone's lucky enough to have a friend who has like a summer house like that. But I think everyone has someone in their life who like their parents go on business trips or something, and everyone comes over for a couple days and just drinks and gets fucked up. So I don't know. That tapped into some nostalgia I haven't seen in a horror movie since like slashers.
Okay.
And also, I believe I told you I was on a camping trip last weekend.
Yes.
We played a game called Random Werewolf, something like that. Same concept as this.
Huh.
And we talked about how it was a possibility to play it with 0 werewolves. All villagers. And the game master would just decide who died, and we would just point fingers and kill each other.
That's fun.
So, right off the bat, I was like, ooh, there's not going to be a killer.
You called it before I did. Honestly, the fact that there was no killer was the biggest letdown of this entire movie. That's my opinion of it. But I enjoyed it. It's entertaining. What's your Memorial Line highlight?
Don't call her a psychopath. That's so ableist. It would have been the Libra Moon comment, but that was just too easy.
No, okay, so you didn't get mine.
Okay.
Which, you're right, the Libra Moon one would have been way too easy. I think you put it where it needed to be. I did write down that so ableist. I thought that was hilarious. But my favorite one was when she looks at her and goes, "Your parents are upper middle class."
Yeah. That was conceptually one of the funniest arguments is because she was doing it to shatter her like
rags to
riches way of seeing
self-identity, yeah.
But she wasn't arguing that she came from lower class and her parents and her friends are like, no, you're upper middle class. She knew she was middle class and was arguing that she was middle class, not upper middle class. It's just hilarious to me that you would still have that rags to riches story.
Yeah. And then also, but I love the follow-up too. It was like, your parents are both teachers at a university. She's like, it's public. Like, how dare you accuse me of like holding out on you? Just, truly, only good part of the cat fight and the ableist comment.
All right. So you ready to give the rating?
Yeah. I got 6 stupid kids.
6 stupid. That's
I enjoyed it.
I give it 3 bodies.
Really?
The beginning was like a 6 or 7.
All right.
It just derailed itself and kind of ruined the movie for me. But if it kept up, easy 6 or 7. I very enjoyed that.
At one point, I considered it bumping it down to a 5, but I don't know. I walked away from the movie enjoying it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I'm more just disappointed in it. There was nothing... Most movies, I will just rip apart. This movie was just a letdown because it could have been really good.
You're not mad, just disappointed.
I am, yeah. Because I know it could have been better.
Yeah. All right.
I only ask so much of horror movies because I know they're capable of giving it to me.
Especially for an A24 film.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay. That's it. Next week, who knows what will be recorded.
I have no fucking clue. Maybe we're gonna do another. Maybe we're gonna do another Pride movie.
Maybe. I think by the time this one gets posted, it'll be the end of Pride.
I think it's gonna be like early July when this.
No, this will get posted like late June. It'll be the last week of June. Because I think so.
Next Wednesday.
It's the last week of June.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
No.
There's a whole other week. This will be so next week will be my episode with Ian. That's the 21st. Then the 28th will be this episode.
Yeah, you're right.
So this will be the last week of June.
Hooray, happy Pride. Also, congrats Ian on getting married because when this comes out, he will have gotten married. He'll be happy. Him and Holly. So, let's see. I don't know when Ian gets back from his honeymoon, but to thank him for being a friend of the podcast, and as a wedding present, we were going to we were going to release an Ian-a-thon of Fear.com, whatever the other one is, and then...
a special episode we were going to record with him before this one.
But he's wisely quarantining before the wedding, so I guess we'll just do a special Ian episode when he gets back.
I mean, prior to this episode, you would have heard the 2 Ian episodes back to back. So,
what's a good wedding themed horror movie? Is there one?
There's gotta be, right?
Yeah, there must be.
We can find some, or we can just do the original
Bride
plan.
of Frankenstein, maybe, but that's old.
Ready or Not, apparently.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm not watching Ready or Not.
No, Demon.
Wait a minute. I keep messing up Ready or Not with Truth or Dare.
Yeah, no. The Blood-Spattered Bride. Hatchet for the Honeymoon.
The Invitation.
Is that for a wedding?
It says it is.
Oh, okay. Wedding slashers?
None of these really call to me, but...
yeah. Bride of Chucky. The Devil's Wedding Night.
Blood Bride.
The Russian Bride.
Ooh, The Black-Blooded Brides of Satan. And, wait a minute, the poster has a woman's butt on it.
Amazing. It's going to... Beetlejuice.
Bride of Chucky. Man, how come there's so many and so few are even okay?
I don't know. Is Get Out technically about a wedding?
No.
Oh.
Nah, they're just boyfriend, girlfriend.
Okay.
We could do Wedding Slashers, and then as a joke, we both watch Wedding Crashers.
I love it.
One of these days, I do want to do that, where I give all three of you guys... Oh, Corpse Bride. Ian actually might like that.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we can have probably both of them on.
Yeah.
If we do Corpse Bride.
Yeah. One of these days, I do want to take, like, a horror movie that's been remade a bunch, give you, me, and a guest... 3 different versions and just see if you guys can piece together that we're talking about 3 different movies.
It's for me, I think I'll know pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but for the guest, I don't know.
It might work for Nightmare Alley. That's a
Ooh.
that looks like that's very faithfully adapted.
I gotta rewatch that.
Wait, you didn't like Nightmare Alley?
We went through this. I didn't care for it. I didn't finish it.
You sure you're not thinking of a different movie?
I'm pretty sure I did.
It's the one where Toni Collette gives Bradley Cooper a hand job.
Yeah. It was kind of boring.
You didn't care for that? I will admit that was one of my least favorite scenes in the movie, but
I stopped watching it after a while.
She kicked her husband out of the room to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was weird.
I don't know. It's been a while. I haven't looked at that movie in like almost a year.
The circus had a what was it? Like the shower tent or the hand job hut where you could pay 25 cents and get a hand job and a bath.
Happy Pride, y'all.
Two straight people having sex is not pride.
No, I was cutting off the conversation.
All right, perfect.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. You'll know what we're listening to next one with the title. And also make sure you check out our website, horrorsucks.com. Follow us on Instagram or send us an email at horrorsucks@podcast@gmail.com.
Do you actually check that?
The email?
Yeah.
No, but I do get notifications for it on my phone anyway,
Okay.
so like I would see, but we have not gotten an email.
Yeah, because I've been giving out my thing as like, if people need to reach me. So
I love it.
Conceivably, people would actually be emailing that.
All right, I'll check it.
Stice has my
Stice has it?
Yeah.
It is all advertisements.
All right. Well, we'll get one at some.
A lot of Podcorn and Custom Ink and Wix. That's it. That's all it. Stice did not try and email you, Carter.
All right. Well, keep in mind, they're not going to be like stice@gmail.com.
I realize that, but it would be different from all of the other emails I get, and it's...
That's fair. Well, one of these days, Stice will get back to us about
being on the
crossover.
Podcast.
Yeah.
I'm dead. All right. And with that...
Stay spooky.
Horror Sex is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing done by Carter, and production done by me. Okay, bye!